What's up, guys? Specstar here today with my 12th and final week of MLBA, and I'm going up here against my boy Lunar, who is filled in for Osh, who I battled week 1, and we've got a rematch here in our very first battle. If any of you guys remember, it was a close, tough battle, but we were able to clutch it out at the end with Faramosa, which is no longer on the team. We now have that boy Reshiram, and it's going to be a completely different battle. So Lunar has got himself here a team consisting of Tapu Koko, Excadrill, Espeon, Tyranitar, Blissey, and Scyther. Not too many surprises. One thing that did surprise me is I expected to see Protein Greninja in over Scyther. Instead, opts to go for Scyther, which actually I'm very okay with that. Protein Greninja was probably the hardest thing I had to deal with. So let me switch over to my team and talk about what I have brought in here. Get the right angle, which is here. Starting off, I've got my Mega Venusaur, physically defensive, nothing too surprising there. Leech Seed, because Synthesis isn't the most reliable recovery option there is in the sand, which he had a very good chance at bringing. Knockoff, of course, covers Espeon and Scyther. It doesn't hit Scyther hard, but knocking off in a Violite or some potential boosting item is very, very useful in this game. Synthesis and Kick a Train, pretty self-explanatory. Next up here, I've got the King, my Reshiram. And this is a bit of an out there set, right? I've got enough HP investment so that Blissey cannot break my substitute with Seismic Toss. And I've got the Dragonium Z Outrage. What do I have speed for? I've got speed for a max speed Tyranitar here. And Tyranitar and Blissey are his answers to Reshiram. And my idea with this set was to flip that on its head. Reshiram is able to set up on Blissey and completely bop any sort of Tyranitar that would want to come. It does not want to take that Dragonium. Not at all. And Blue Flare is just to cover things like Scyther. Anything that really does want to take Outrage does not appreciate taking Blue Flare. Even with a special attack dropping nature, this thing still has an insane amount of special attack, 302. And with Roost, this thing actually has a decent amount of longevity. It can be a reliable answer to most Tapu Kokos, things like that. Next up here, I've got my Assault Vest Metagross, and I brought this to week 1. It is coming back. I want to Pursuit Trap that Espeon. That makes it a lot easier to deal with. It makes things like Venusaur, sorry I'm botching my words here, but it makes things like Venusaur have a lot more potential in this game if I can get rid of things like Espeon and such. Espeon, one of his few very good Venusaur answers. And I've got Rock Slide for Scyther, Meteor Mash, just my most spammable move. Earthquake covers things like Excadrill. Next up here, I've got my Life Orb Sharpedo, Liquidation, Crunch, just the stab moves that hit his team very well. Life Orb gives me the power to prevent things like Blissey from coming in. And Psychic Fangs hit. Something that didn't come, I wanted Psychic Fangs to hit. My apologies for not remembering what it was, but it was definitely something. As my little dog's going off there. Next up here, I've got my Golbat. I'm physically defensive with Defog, Super Fang, Heat Wave, Roost. This helps me come in on things like Excadrill to some extent. Scyther helps me get rid of annoying rocks, which my team doesn't really love if the situation's right, or any other sort of hazard he'd want to bring but didn't bring to his 6-mon team. Lastly here, I've got my Piloswine. And Piloswine is running Rocks, of course, best move in the game, dual stab, fairly self-explanatory. I prefer the power from Icicle Crash to the priority in this particular matchup, and Curse just makes sure Blissey can't wall this thing for free. So let me switch back on over to the battle here. And I decided here that I wanted to lead off with Reshiram, My thought process here is that he very well could lead off with Tapu Koko, and if he does lead off with Tapu Koko, Reshiram gets a free sub up pretty much, and that's kind of where my head's at here. So I'm gonna go ahead and click play here, and he leads a Blissey, which is even better because that is a free sub. Blissey cannot break my sub, no way, no how. And he's gonna try and throw off a T-Wave, and I am now behind a sub. And I've got the HP that S-Toss doesn't break it. I'm gonna go right for Dragonium. Hits Blissey hard, definitely hits the T-Tar switch in, which is very nice. T-Tar is now in range of only Outrage, so I have to click Outrage to take the thing out. And it's very nice to see this Reshiram do the work. Next, he's going to want to bring in his Drill, and I'm going to have to hope that I get a 2-turn Outrage so I can save this thing. If not, it's not the end of the world, but it's kind of annoying. So I will throw off the Outrage, and I will get the 2-turn Fatigue, which is very nice for my Reshiram here. Then I'm going to bring in my Golbat, which can get rid of rocks if he opts to set them up. He goes for Sword Stance here. I'm just going to try and click my Heat Wave to get damage off on this thing, which makes it easier to deal with. He's going to flinch me here, which is unfortunate, but it happens. I'm going to decide here that I want to go into my Piloswine, and my thought process was that he's very likely to click Rock Slide again here, and if I can stall a few turns of Sand, then he never gets it back up, and Sharpedo can get faster than this thing. So that's kind of where my head's at. And I'm going to bring in my Piloswine here. He will opt to go for Rock Slide. And I'm just going to go back into my Golbat here, which will exhaust enough Sand turns that a Protect from Sharpedo will completely end them. He actually goes for his Tectonic Rage there, which is pretty nice. Definitely nice to burn that thing in case I want to go into my Sharpedo and click Protect, because Sharpedo is not appreciating a Protect blocked, still 25% Rage. So here I will bring in my Sharpedo, and I am not max speed, so I will click Protect just to be very safe here. He brings in his Blissey, and I just want to go out here into my Piloswine. He's going to go for T-Wave. I'm going to absorb that. I believe here I predicted him to go into Espeon. Yeah, I did, and he actually goes for Toxic. My thought process there is that he might want to go into Espeon because Rocks was... I had a decent chance to click Rocks there. It was fairly obvious. Instead, he goes for a Toxic here, so I bring in my Metagross, which it covers that play fairly well too. I'm just going to throw off a Meteor Mash, kind of fish for an attack boost. I do get an attack boost, but it doesn't matter because he goes into Excadrill. So I'm going to go back into Piloswine. We know now that he's not Iron Head. So I'm just going to click an Earthquake here, and he's going to let his Drill go down. Piloswine's going to get a KO, and I believe that's Piloswine's 7th KO of the season. So this thing's done a little bit of work for me, especially for its price. And that's a lot of KOs for a utility type mon to get. He's going to bring in his Koko, and I'm going to bring in my Reshiram, which on most variants of Koko can actually roost up, and I would have munched on any hit, and getting Reshiram's health back is a priority for me. Instead, he's going to U-turn on Piloswine, and that tells me something's funky, because Piloswine at that point was healthy enough to take a Specs or something like that Koko's U-turn, so he's definitely got some attack, and that's something to keep in mind. I'm going to bring in my Reshiram and switch out, or he's going to bring in his Espeon on my Reshiram, and I'm going to switch out to my Metagross, which can Pursuit Trap this thing and open things up for Venusaur a little bit, although Scyther's still there, and that's something to keep in mind for Venusaur. I'm going to Pursuit, he's going to see that coming and stay in, and we're basically going to trade Metagross for Espeon, which I'm very fine to do here. Didn't need Metagross for too much else. I guess it could have helped me a little bit with Scyther, but not too big of a deal there, I'm thinking. He's going to bring in his Koko, U-turn out, go in a Blissey. That gives me a sub with Reshiram, so we take those opportunities. No Blissey can't break her sub no matter what. I'm going to go ahead and get it up. He'll go Koko. I'm behind a sub here. I decide that now is where I want to get my health back on Reshiram. to give me a better answer to Scyther, so we'll just roost up. He's gonna click return here, which is pretty interesting, and we're gonna see now why, and that's because he is a banded Tapu Koko. Very interesting bring by my man Lunar here. And he's thrown off banded returns while I roost up. I just want to get all my health back. I don't want to risk any sort of rolls or anything like that. I'm not playing those games. I'm going all the way back up. And he returns, and now I will be at 100%. So here I'm going to click Blue Flare. It is nice for me to get rid of this Koko or get a lot of damage off on it. And he actually goes into Scyther. He wanted to get Koko out of there, and Blissey... Oops, I got a little bit behind there. He wants to get out of there, and Blissey is never bringing on Resh because the setup's too dangerous for it. He's going to Blue Flare. I'm going to Blue Flare here as he brings in his Scyther. Here I'm just going to click Blue Flare again. I don't have a great bring-in on Scyther, and Blue Flare will take this out, plus Resh will take any hit it can throw off. Except he is going to crit me, and he is going to put me in range of the Tapu Koko, which makes this a little bit of a tricky position for me. So he brings out his Koko here, and I'm just going to sack off my Piloswine. He's going to go for Brave Bird. I'm going to run Calx. Any variant of Banded Koko, Venusaur will take a Brave Bird from. And if I knock him off, then I can roost up with my Reshiram safely. So my thought process here is just to go into Venusaur, knock him off, and then I win with Reshiram. That's my plan here. I'm going to bring in my Venusaur. I'm just going to Mega Evolve and knock the thing off. Except he's going to get another crit, and Venusaur is down. It did 60 something to 70 something. And I'm going to bring in my Sharpedo. I'm going to click Protect. And I am not a happy boy here because now my position's tricky. I'm just going to throw off Liquidations here. I know he has T-Waves, but if I can get enough speed boost, then I'm going to outpace the Koko. So I'm going to throw off another Liquidation here and put myself in a bit of a tricky position. I have to get a Protect, and then I have to get a Liquidation. So I have a 51% chance to win here after those two crits. I get one Protect off, so it's down to a 70-30 here. Will Sharpedo break through and finish us off on a 7-game win streak? And it does. Sharpedo will claim victory for us, and we're going to finish the season at 10-2 plus 22. So a pretty good season for us. We're going to be the #1 seed for the playoffs, and we're going to face whoever can manage to finagle that last spot there. Got a few people competing for that spot. It'll probably come with 6 wins, so it'll probably be 10-2 versus 6-6, which sounds favorable for us on paper, but you know, Pokemon works like football. Any given Sunday, anyone can bring the right strategy in the right day and pull off a victory, so we will definitely not take our opponent lightly because they are the low seed. Definitely anything can happen, but I am pleased to end this off on a strong note. 7-game win streak after we started off 3-2 and finishing 10-2. Happy with the outcome of the season. Reshiram has now had 4 KOs in its 3 games with us and no deaths. It's been doing pretty good, and our team's been doing pretty well since we brought it in. So I hope it can continue that streak on to the playoffs. And that is going to be it for this video. I want to thank you guys for watching, not just this video, but as much of the season as you have watched. And have yourselves a good night.